Hey guys, this is me and Brighton. We're back. I am not even going to give an excuse. We're just going to get right into the video. So we decided today we would share the lessons that we've learned throughout the year, which will also help you understand why we have been silent for a while. So over to you, Brighton. What are some of the lessons that you've learned in 2022 that you'd want to share with us?
Wow, 2022 has been a really interesting year, and I feel looking back on it, I think in many ways I have matured. Maybe it's getting older. I am ticking along in years. I'm still young, but I think ticking along, the way you look at things, it's less more in the perspective of a youngish person. When I say young, I mean like in my 20s. The way at least you looked at the world is different to the way I look at things now, and I think I'm more reflective. I am constantly always looking back on my day, on my week, on maybe the last few months. What have I been doing? My thought processes, and things tend to stay with me more, and I ruminate on them. So we can have a conversation, you can say something, and then later on I'm like, why did she say that? Or was there any truth to that? Or do I need to adjust? Or no, okay, I get what she's saying, but I was seeing things from this point of view. So in those kinds of instances, and even in different encounters I have with different people, I'm more reflective, and that way I can learn from those instances, and moving forward, I am more cognizant of what has happened in the past, and I can use that going forward, so that I guess you could probably say it goes in with time, maybe because like I'm saying, I'm reaching that age. I'm still young, like I say, but I'm reaching an age where I think maybe I can say I'm maturing. So I realize that the time that I have is so little, and one of my primary responsibilities is to my family, you and the kids. And so I really need to look at interactions I have, encounters I have, experiences I have. What am I doing with my time, which is the greatest resource we all have? What am I doing with that? Am I giving too much energy to something that is not important, or that is way down on my priority list, and taking away from you guys and what's important? So I think for me, that being reflective and really looking back at yourself, and I think taking responsibility and accountability for what you've been doing, and seeing how you as an individual can impact your surroundings and environment and situation going forward.
I like that, and I was going to mention mine, but maybe before we get into that, there's something that you shared about priorities. How did you come up with your priorities that make you say, okay, so family for me comes first. I don't waste my time. I guess it also goes with boundaries. How did you come up with that?
I would think it's more organic. Like I'm saying, you're growing, you're maturing, you experience every day, you learn things, and you start seeing. And of course, you can imagine when I was a bachelor, then I got married, and then I had to make adjustments. I'm like, okay, I used to be free to do whatever I wanted. Now I'm at that stage, okay, I've now got you in my life, and I need to make some serious adjustments and changes to accommodate you into my life. I am no longer just doing whatever I want. I have some accountability to you, you have accountability to me, and we have to synergize and mesh our schedules and how we operate and live our lives. And then the kids come along, and then we have to further make another adjustment.
Oh yeah.
And you've got work on the side, and then you've got whatever. And you find, as you're making these adjustments, maybe when I was a bachelor, watching movies and sport and soccer was high up on the list. Then I get married, then you come in, and then that pushes down naturally, and then the kids come in, then so you see, like, things like hobbies and all these other things get pushed down as more important things come up. And like we always say, your primary responsibility as a family man, as a wife, as a husband, is your family. You take care of your family, you take care. Then once that is sorted, and with the agreement of the family, and making sure we are not taking away from the family, then we can then move a step further and take on more responsibility. And then when you can manage that, you can take a step further. But it's always important to start at the very core, and I think that's really what directs my priorities, and knowing that family comes first. And once that is sorted, then I can maybe expand myself and look to take on more responsibility.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that because it's a lesson that I've had to learn over time. I was one of those people who I was all over the place. Like, I will do one thing and do another in the same time, and then I'll be overwhelmed and so many things. And I guess I've learned it from you about prioritizing. And in this year, I've actually learned to say no. And that was one of the hardest things because I always hate confrontation. I like to live in peace, but I've also noticed that I guess a lot of people took advantage of the fact that I didn't have those boundaries. Like, they just knew I need help, I can call Anna. Whether it's 5 minutes before I need that help, Anna is going to come through. And for me, it became so exhausting being everything for everyone and saying, who's taking care of you? Are those people available when you also need them? And really the answer was no. So I had to go through a season where I then isolated myself and I took that break and I removed myself from people, and I had to ask myself, am I doing it for me or I'm doing it for other people? And where am I lacking? And one of those things was finding it comes with insecurities that I have, where I think I need to constantly make everyone happy, and I had to deal with that. So as Brighton is mentioning about family coming first, I've been intentional about it. Why are you laughing? I think I've made progress.
No, I was laughing about something else. No, you're good.
But don't you think I've made progress?
No, a lot, 100%. And adding to that, I think what's important, because you as you were talking, I was thinking about it, that there's this issue of decision fatigue and being like kids in a candy store. You like helping people, I like helping people, and you really want to do that. And at the same time, there's so many other things you need to do. You're like, there's this opportunity to help someone, there's this opportunity to help someone. And then you're like saying you're all over the place. And you start here, and then you say, like, you end up not doing anything because you've got your fingers in so many different pies. But I think it comes to that idea of focus. I think it's really important to you're doing one thing, get it done, and then move on. And I think we have that decision fatigue I'm talking about. There's so many, when the options are so numerous, you really be like, I can't miss out on that. I need
to be there.
And your intentions are good, your motivations are good, but you have to really that's what we're talking about, that reflection. If you have to reflect and say, in as much as I would like to do that, I can't do that right now. Maybe at a later date. And if it has to pass, then it will pass. But it's not like it's passing because I'm just sitting back doing nothing. I am taking care of the responsibilities I have on my plate at that particular moment.
That's so good. And what I've also learned is, if people sincerely care about you, when you say no, they won't move away from you. They respect your boundaries. And it goes to the next point, which is give yourself grace. I think I'm one of those people who wants to do things perfectly, who wants to make sure my ducks are in a row. And sometimes I didn't beat myself up. Today I was actually posting about being careful about the inner voice, because that inner voice sometimes will tell you could have done better, you're not worthy, and I think it's us identifying what that inner voice says to us. That is extremely important when it comes to showing up every day, because I think it's a daily battle. You can either listen to that voice that is telling you you're not good enough, or the voice that tells you you can. And it goes with the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. So for me, it was also just reflecting and saying to myself, where do I have that fixed mindset where I beat myself up because I failed at something? The past, I think it's been a month or two, I haven't been feeling well, and I had to stop and rest. And it wasn't easy for me because my body was telling me something, but my mind was telling me something else. Anna, it's about working. And I guess it goes to the next lesson, which is work smart, not hard. Sometimes we think you constantly have to be working all the time, but what can you do with the time that you have? Like, we all have 24 hours, but you need to take care of your health as much as you are also working. And we have different responsibilities. Like, I'm a mother, I do so many other things, but I need to make sure that as I'm giving myself in one area, I'm not depriving my children in another area. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, what I would say to that is, it's really important you speak of your health. And the way I look at it is, if you cannot take care of yourself, you are of no value, of no use to anybody else.
Yeah.
So, even if you go to work and you're not feeling well, they'll be like, no, go home, get better, then come back. You're of no good to us if you are not good, if you are not okay, be it physically, mentally, emotionally. Get yourself sorted out. So that's why it goes back to that prioritization. What is most important? Your family, yourself. Are you healthy? Are you capable? Are you fit? Are you able to? Because when you are then healthy and fit and capable, you can then start expanding those responsibilities around you. You are healthy, you're fit, you're an able young man, you can take on a wife. Excellent. You're a healthy, capable young couple. You can bring in children into the world. You're healthy, capable young family. Then you can maybe add another child or take on a responsibility, doing something else beyond that. But then it comes from that health. Because if you are not healthy, you not only are you not helpful to anybody else, but you're also a burden to others. So in as much as possible. Of course, there are people who need help and they cannot help themselves at times, and they should reach out and get that help. But I think it's important, in as much as we can help ourselves, that is our primary responsibility, because it's to ourselves, it's to our community, it's to our family. We take care of ourselves, and then we can be of benefit, of use to everybody else around us.
I like that. And our next lesson that we both learned is you are like the 5 people that you spend most of your time with.
Yes, I think more accurately, it's you are the aggregate of the 5 people that are closest to you. And for me, that's something I think I've heard a lot, but I guess, like I was saying, I've been reflecting a lot this year. And when I heard it not so long ago, it spoke more to me now than it ever has been. And then I was more conscious, and I was like, wait a minute, let me actually count. I am an introvert, so I don't really have a lot of, I do have a lot of acquaintances, a lot of friends, but I'm not always not always in contact with them. So then I started counting, like, okay, there's you, that's one, then there's my brother, then I'm like, okay, and I'm like, whoa, okay, I need to find a new 5 people, But the thing is, you really start observing, you be like, but wait a minute, it is true. The 5 closest people to you are the 5 people who speak the most into your life, who have the most impact. And if you're going to get ideas that are external to you, because you can only improve by listening to what's outside of you, because wherever you're at, it's because of what's going on in there. But how you move is what's going on outside of you, and that's coming into you. So you start looking and you say, maybe I've got 4 of my friends all own their own business. I need to own my own business if I need to feel like I fit in this group. And I think that's what happens. My friends, they've all got degrees. Wait a minute, I need a degree for me to feel like I belong and fit in. And you start finding, so these are the kinds of things that will be going on in your mind. And I'm just looking at myself, and I like the position I am at in life, but I don't want to be stagnant, and I always want to be continuously growing to get greater capacity. So that's why I was reflecting and saying, maybe I really need to look at the 5 closest people around me and see if I can get closer to other people. And when you get closer to other people, it's not necessarily just getting closer so that I benefit. It's great, of course, you're not going to get involved with someone who you're not going to benefit from, but it should be mutual, the benefit. I must also be giving, and they must be giving, and then that there's that mutual exchange, and then it's worth their while to have me in their inner circle just as much as it's worth my while.
And there's that saying that says, if you are the smartest in the room, you're in the wrong room. You need to make sure that you're constantly growing. For me, I love learning from people, and every year I say to God, who can I learn from? And there are people I see that I don't qualify to even reach out to them. But in just praying about it and saying, God, you need to link me up with this person. I don't know how God does it, but he finds a way for me to connect with that person. And it has helped me a lot to learn. Recently, there's a YouTuber that I was watching, and I was in her membership thing. She does a monthly membership. And I was saying, God, I need an opportunity with her. Like, I want to learn, because she does a lot of ministry work. And I want to learn from her. And I found that God has actually given me that opportunity. So I've also learned that you need to make sure that you're connected to people who can help you develop the skills that you have. You know, if you're an author, find other people who are authors and learn from them. If you're what other thing I'm thinking of? Okay, I can't even think of a singer. Just find people who are also in the same field, because that is the way you grow. Like, you can never know it all. And I guess it takes us to the next point, that stay humble. Sometimes we get offended when people give us constructive criticism, and we're like, who do they think they are? I have made it. I am better. I know someone was actually sharing recently that for a lot of us, we have gotten opportunities that our parents didn't get. And sometimes you start looking down on them like, you don't have a degree, you have not gone places that I have gone. But know that as long as someone is older, they're also wiser. They might not know what you know, but they know something. So before you reject something, make sure you've listened to understand and not to defend yourself, because that is extremely important. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah. On that, I think, like I said, I started with reflection, and everything seems to go back to that.
It, yeah.
And you're talking about humility. And I think it's important to note, maybe it goes without saying, but if you are reflective, but you're not humble, you're prideful, you reflect, and then you had an encounter with someone told you something that you didn't like in the moment, in the heat of the emotion, and then you reflect on it, and then you're prideful, and you're like, nope, no, they're crazy, I'm right, they're wrong. But when you are being reflective, if you then go back to that thing, that you're like, why did they say that? Was there any truth to it? And I think when you approach it from a place of humility, you are then able to see if there was any good in that thing. You are then able to take that good out. Because, they always say that, listen to your enemies, because they will tell you what's wrong, what you're doing wrong, or where you're weak. So you can actually learn when someone, even if they have bad, they can tell you something about you, and you can learn something. And when you're reflective, you can say, okay, that is what they mean. And I think from that humility then, and you're always constantly reflecting on your life, that way you're able to make those adjustments. And I think you will see that growth in yourself, because you are fixing where things are going wrong. You look, okay, this particular person, how I dealt with them, maybe I shouldn't use this tone of voice, maybe I shouldn't broach this subject with them, maybe I should approach them this way. These are things we can talk about, these are things we can't talk about, and maybe I do tend to be overbearing, maybe I do tend to do this. And you can actually rein yourself in and sharpen yourself and as you improve yourself. So yeah.
That is interesting. Thank you for that. And I think the next point would be always put God first. Like, for me, I found that there's so many voices that are around us because of the information we're always consuming. Make sure that you can still hear the voice of God. Like, make sure that you're listening to the right voices, because there are so many things. I think you can testify to that, to say we're listening to podcasts, YouTube, we're going online, constantly we're reading things, and so make sure that you can still hear the voice of God. And I think it's important that you also isolate yourself, remove all the voices that are around you, and just be still for a while. Like, you need to do that as you're going through the year, to just have moments you say to yourself, I'm taking time out. I need to remove myself from all this information around me. Because sometimes I think I've learned, I don't know whether it's because I'm getting older, but I've found that you go through brain fog, you go through times where you're losing your memory, you can't remember things, and so many other things. But I've seen, and also I've seen that sometimes it's like you have so many tabs open, like a computer, and you need to be intentional about closing each and every one of them. And that happens when you remove yourself from the noise and you isolate. And I've learned there's so much growth in isolation. So make sure that as you are going through life, you have those times where you remove yourself. I guess others call it a sabbatical, right? Where you just say, I'm spending time alone, I'm resting, I'm doing that self-introspection. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Okay, I was thinking I think you touched on a few things. Hopefully I can remember them all, but I think you said we should always start with God, put God first, I think. And I was actually laughing when you said that, because I was thinking we probably should have started this video with God. But having said that, it's so true. And you went on to talk about this shutting out the noise and all this. There's so many things that we listen to and hear. And I was just thinking and just comparing myself to what you were saying, and it's very true. I remember I was talking to my brother just yesterday, and I was telling him that I because his job that he does, he can't have his phone or his headphones on all the time, only when he's on break. And I'm like, for me, I can't imagine, even if I was to go to work and I can't be listening to music or podcast or something. I just need to always, I'm so tuned into that. That is just part of how I do my things and how I operate. So I was just thinking about that, and you're talking about the whole putting God first, which is, I mean, paramount, and then tuning out all these other voices. And the way I look at it and how I do my things, I'm that person who's always listening to stuff. What I do is, I always start my day reading the Bible. And I think it's very good, like you're talking about putting God first. And I think it helps me have that foundational base, starting, we say the Bible is objective, it's the word of God, and changing, and it's the right thing. So that's the base, and the day starts there with the word of God. Just a short reading there, I have that. And then I go about listening to whatever. And I think it's important to have that discernment, to know that maybe some things I shouldn't listen to, some things I shouldn't watch, some things I shouldn't, because sometimes you can be, because I am very interested in, in listening to Christian apologetics, that kind of thing. And I even sometimes listen to what the atheists, the people who argue against Christianity, have to say, the Muslims, what they have to say. And I'm interested in that. And sometimes I can say, okay, you have a point, or like, no, what you're saying, no, this is not making sense, and it's not going to help me in any way, because it's all, you always want to be able to encounter these people and have an exchange, a beneficial exchange, mutually beneficial. But sometimes you can listen to something and say, this is not going to help me in any way, or this here it's not helping. But I think that discernment helps us, and by putting God first, you are able, I think God helps you. When you seek Him first, then all these other things, like it says, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. And I think in the all, there are so many things that are encompassed in that all that we don't even see. You just avoid certain things. He protects you from all these other things, and you're able to say, you know what, I know what the word says, this is wrong, or this isn't right. And even when because I'm not speaking from a place of someone who's perfect, like I'm always doing right, I'm always listening. Sometimes I'll listen to something that I probably shouldn't. Sometimes, hey,
don't we know?
Yes, we're all sinners, but
yeah,
it's one of the thing of being grounded. You can actually, and again, talking about that reflection, you can look back and say, no, I shouldn't have done that. God, I'm sorry, that was wrong, and I did it, and I'm owning up to it, humbly coming before you and saying I'm sorry. And I think that's okay to do that. And I think the more you do that, the more likely you are in the future to steer clear of those things, because our whole lives we are works in progress. We never arrive. We're never finished. We're never done. We're always practicing and practicing. It reminds me of this. There's this quote I saw on Instagram the other day. There was this guy, I think he was coaching some kids, and it was really powerful. I thought it kind of applies in this case. He was saying, what's the difference between a professional and an amateur? And he says that amateurs practice until they get something right. And then he says a professional practices until they can't get it wrong.
Okay.
And I think,
I was about to say the amateurs, like.
No, you see.
Wow,
you see. And it makes sense, because if you've ever played any sports and you see with a pro, even when he's dressed casually, he'll just do something and you're like, wow, that was so. He just can't get it wrong. It's a part of him, his muscle memory, his body, everything is so tuned. And I think as Christians, we shouldn't be looking, oh no, I once last year I did, or 10 years ago I did something good, I'm covered, that's it. No. Christianity is active, it's a continuous. You're always practicing, always, because we are going forward in those motions God helping us, so that we get to a point where we never get it wrong, and we can only get to that point when God is actually the one doing it in us. It's never us. So I think that we can liken us to that. I thought that was just a powerful
That's
quote.
So powerful. And I think to end, I don't know if you have anything else, but I was just going to end by saying it's also important to know your enemy, right? I've found, maybe I will relate it to my own life, that I've got my weaknesses, and I found that the enemy always brings those weaknesses to stop me from doing what I need to do. And I think we all have different weaknesses, but it's important to know them so that you're able to identify where he has come into your life, where he's trying to attack you. Like I know our dream and our wish was to show up every week on YouTube. We're like, God has called us to share the word. God has called us to share with people. And don't ever think for a moment we do it because we are perfect. But as we are learning, we're saying, God, these things that we've learned, let us also share with other people. And we have identified that there were times, maybe Brighton will share his part, but I found that there were times where I give an excuse for something that God is actually calling me to do. Like I run. That is my weakness. I will run. I will give excuses. And it's only by God's grace that I'm able to show up. But I've learned that it is also important for me to know the enemy, to know when he's coming in, when he's speaking in me and not God. Like it says in the word that he masquerades as an angel of light. So don't assume he's going to come with the bad things. He comes with the attractive things and he says, this is the package. Do you want it or not? So you need to have that discernment. I think you talked about it earlier, to actually say, okay, God, this is what has been brought in front of me. Is this from you or it's from the enemy? Because this is everything I've ever wanted. So it's so important to do that. And as we are ending this year, make sure that you don't enter the new year without taking that time to reflect and see where you need to grow, where you messed up, and where you need help. I think I know I come from a culture where it's so hard to ask for help, because for so long it was seen as a weakness, and I've had to learn to say, it's okay. It's okay for you to get that help, because no man is an island, and you go further with people who help you than you would by yourself. And you need to make sure you have that tribe of people who are always there for you, who help you. I know when I struggled in my own season, I had people who would be like, I'm praying for you. I'm just checking on you. Are you okay? What can we do to help you? And I really appreciated that. So if you're a strong person, you need to know that you also need help. Don't try to do it by yourself. And this is why we decided to share the lessons for today. Okay, I'm kind of concluding now before giving Brighton his turn, so I'll keep quiet.
I think that's the fourth time you said my name in this video. But anyway,
Really?
I was just, when you were talking, and I was just thinking, you said the enemy, and I was just thinking to myself, and we're in the context of reflecting on the year. I thought something in relation to what you were saying, maybe to summarize all of this. We can talk about reflecting, we can talk about humility, we can talk about all these things, and that's all fair and fine, it's all good, it's all true, and should be taken into account and should be acknowledged. But I think one thing that has really shown up for me, and maybe not just this year, but in the last few years, that is really paramount, and I think is sometimes taken for granted, because a lot of times things that go without saying tend to just be ignored, like, oh, it's obvious. But if it's so obvious, why are there problems with it? And that is this relationship. This is the foundation of a family. And I think so many times we tend to be so focused on, yes, it's obvious, we're in a family, we're in a marriage, of course it's obvious it has to work, but I'm so focused on what can I do for me, how can I benefit, what can you do, how can you benefit? We tend to forget that we are part of a whole, two parts of one whole. And that, I think, for me is, and we see the evidence, marriages are falling apart and families are being destroyed because just these two people, my husband and wife, if they are good, the family is good. And what does that mean? All the kids who are around are good. We are raising healthy and productive members of society who are going to contribute positively in our society in the future, present and future. But if there are problems here, we are not just creating problems in the present, but these kids were creating problems in them that they are seeing and they are going to inherit and they are going to take with them into the world. Yes. So it becomes a legacy of problems. So it's so crucial that this relationship, your relationship with your spouse, that relationship, you give it the time, you prioritize. If you're going to reflect on anything, reflect on that. Make sure you are actively working towards it, and not just on every third day or once a week. Make sure if you're going to do anything on a daily basis, it's that.
That's so powerful. That is, yes. Yeah. And know when he enters your home. Like, it takes I think we posted, was it last week? I posted a post where I was saying God had to strip us of so much pride that was in each of us. There is no way a marriage can work when there's pride in you as an individual. Like, even when I've seen where I've gone and prayed and said, God, take care of Brighton, he's doing this or that, he starts with me and he says, let's first take care of you before we take care of Brighton. And it's always easy to see what someone else is doing wrong before you see your own thing. And I think something that has also helped me is just saying, every day I mess up and God still loves me. And if he was to say to me, Anna, Monday you did this and that and that and that, Tuesday you woke up and you did the same, how would we have a relationship? And it will teach you to extend the same grace that God extends to you. I don't think anyone ever arrives in marriage, but it takes two people who are not giving up on each other to say, what can we do to save our marriage? Like Brighton and I have seen a lot, but in going through those difficult seasons, we've also grown, because we've had to say, even though my ego and my pride is telling me I am right, walk up to him, walk up to her. I hope it goes both ways, and apologize and say, what can we do for the sake of our family? We are on the same team. We're not enemies. So that is so, so important. And thank you guys for continuing to watch. I saw that some people subscribed even when we were not online, and by God's grace, I hope we continue to do what we are called to do. And do continue to pray for us, because it doesn't mean that we don't face our own struggles and we don't get attacked. I think as long as you're in the marriage ministry and family ministry, the devil will throw so many things your way to say, look at you've been fighting yesterday, so how can you even come here and say and be telling people things that they need to do? But honestly, it's a journey that we are on, and as we are learning, we just felt we want to be what we wish we had when we were going through certain things. Final words?
No, that's it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed your year, and hope you have a great festive season, and hopefully we can all enter the new year and see each other and continue to share and just help each other out. And above all, let's just have a good time. Life is short. Above all, let's really just be sincere, genuine people who are looking to enjoy this journey we have on this planet.
Yes, and treasure the people that are close to you. You don't know how long you have with them. Bye for now.